Hello, everybody. I hope you're doing very well and welcome back to the Rise Podcast, episode 7. Yeah, 7 episodes already, and I've been doing it for quite some time. However, I haven't been the most consistent with the podcast, but I do want to make it a weekly thing, and now I have got a better quality webcam, as I told you last podcast episode I was going to get, so hopefully it's 4K quality, as it should be, and obviously I've got my mic, which I've just been using for my check-ins and WhatsApp responses for my coaching business, so that's what I'm using. And it's a lot easier just to sit on my computer. I can pop things up, share my screen if we need to dive in any topics, and hopefully the next time I have a guest on as well, the quality will be a little bit better. But thank you very much for all the support on the last episode. It was really fun filming with Ed. I thoroughly enjoyed having a guest on. I definitely do still want to find like a permanent co-host. I just want them to kind of be on the same wavelength as me. Not saying Ed isn't or anything, but I just don't know if he'd be up for it. Just find someone that, I resonate with a lot, you guys resonate with, and it's something that we can just bounce ideas and they'll be like, yeah, I'm happy to commit to one podcast a week. That's definitely something that I want to do. And also what I will say, if there's anyone that you want to see on the podcast or just me chat with, it can be within the fitness industry, bodybuilding, coaching, whatever, or just anyone else, shoot them down in the comments below, DM me, and I'll see what I can do to try get them on. I don't have the most influence to do that, but I will try my best. This podcast episode, I'm just going to go over a few topics I've got written to the right of me, so I make sure that I cover all of them, and then also a Q&A that I put up on my story every single Saturday or Friday usually, just to get a couple questions in. So if you ever want to ask questions or ask whatever, really, head over to my Instagram, give me a follow, and then you'll make sure that you don't miss the story, all right? Also, slightly different, right? Shaved off my facial hair. That has gone. No more facial hair. And the reason I did that is because I just didn't like the look at all. It was so scrubby. It looked awful. Like this whole front section of my facial hair, I can grow really easily, but it's just the sides that took way too long. And they were growing out. They were getting more consistent, but it was so patchy. And I said I was going to commit to the end of the year. However, I gave up simply because I just did not like the look. And everyone was saying, oh, Mikey, you look so much older. The roids are aging you. It was because I was growing facial hair, all right? I guarantee if I got rid of this mustache, I'd look way younger. Okay, I promise you that. That's for sure. But that's a little quick update. Wondering why I look different. Maybe next time I'll have a clean shaven face, all right? Now, a couple updates about myself. I'll just give you guys if any of you are interested. But if you watch my YouTube videos, you would have known these updates anyway. Sitting at around 82.5 kilograms on average. So weight's gone up ever so slightly, but it's kind of starting to even off and trickle back down again, which is nice because I know my body's very, very responsive right now. And I'm entering the 12th week of my off season. So 3 months in with Tim as well. 3 months of assistance as well. And my food, as of the last 2 weeks, has gone up. For the first 10 weeks, no food changes whatsoever. So that's exciting. I've got to film another training day, full day of eating, because it's changed yet again. And I've got my check-ins on Wednesday, and we'll see what happens from there. But I doubt I'm going to get a food bump up again. But we'll see, right? We'll see. Tim is a master, and I follow what he says. And that's one thing is, with coaching, it's why I love it so much, is I have had quite a couple inquiries where people are like, like, Mikey, why do you have a coach if you're a coach yourself? And that's simply because of the same reason most people are inquiring, right? That accountability, not having to think of certain things, knowing you have someone that you 100% trust and you're 100% comfortable with, and you know the decisions they're making for you is going to be pushing you in the right direction. I want that as well, 100%. But then most importantly is, I think what I say to everyone as well, is we look at ourselves as our number one biggest critics, right? Whether we're in a dieting phase, whether we're in a gaining phase, we're so hypercritical where we're nowhere near lean enough. I got to drop my calories so much more. I've got to increase my calories so much more. Why is this happening? It's like, oh, should I go out of the bulk? Should I go back into a diet? And I know I overthink those things a lot because I am quite prone to wanting to stay lean as frequent as possibly as I can. I don't know if that makes any sense there, what I just said, those string of words. But I love to stay lean because I like the way I look, right? Maybe I don't feel 100%, but it's definitely not conducive of building muscle whatsoever, staying that lean, absolutely not. And having someone there that I know I trust and I've got my 100% belief and faith in to take control of what I'm doing, exact same reason why people inquire with me. And yeah, I could do exactly what I need to do in terms of getting myself into a position to compete. But just having that person there just gets rid of that self-stress where you're thinking and overthinking things and comparing yourself to others. Because if you pick a coach that you truly trust, this is what I say to everyone, is, that trust, that partnership. Remember, in coaching isn't a dictatorship. It's so, so important. And, like people will come to me and say, yeah, I've got a couple of inquiries. I've inquired with a few other coaches. I'm like, good. That's the way it should be, right? Because a lot of coaches can coach you, okay? If they're a good coach and they got results, they most likely know what they're doing. If they got a good reputation and you haven't heard any bad things about them, it's okay to trust them, all right? But then I think where you should really inquire and get to know other coaches is because you want to have that relationship with them, in terms of you want to be able to trust them. You want to be able to openly communicate and feel like you're not holding yourself back in any way, shape or form. Because I've had it where, I've inquired with certain coaches and I thought deep down, I'm like, maybe I would be scared to say certain things to them. Maybe I don't trust them as much. Or maybe it's a case of, I don't think I'd enjoy it. I don't think there would be that sort of relationship I want with a coach, where some people want them to be more friendly, want them to be more fun. That's absolutely fine, right? Some people want them to be a lot more serious or a lot more stern and just say how it is. And you've got to find what you want, speak with coaches and just find what's best for you. That's the most important thing when picking out a coach. And for me with Tim, it was more of the case, I loved his sort of nonchalant attitude towards things, where it wasn't the case of I didn't need a lot from Tim in regards to, I don't need him every single day to like hold my hand. And I say that not as a bad thing. I think it's good when a coach is able to do that, and Tim definitely is. But I knew I just wanted Tim just to tell me what to do and me follow it. And then if I had any questions, if I wanted to learn things, he's more than open to answer them, and sort of just wanting to impress him as well. I think that was the main thing, is Tim's an insane coach, and I was like, right, well, I want to impress him. I want to show him that I'm a good client too, if you know what I'm saying there. And that's where you've got to speak to the coaches, learn the type of person they are, and be like, right, am I going to get on with them as just an individual, right? Just as someone that I can kind of, I want to be almost friends with, that I want to be a client for. That's an important thing. Don't just go for a coach where they have amazing results, which is more than enough to sign up with someone. But it might be the case of you slip up on the diet, or you aren't enjoying things as much. And because of the reputation they've got, or because of the things you've heard, you might be scared to tell them, look, I'm not actually enjoying this. It's making me really hate my journey. Or, I did slip up on my diet. You've got to have that level of comfort and that level of trust as well to be able to tell them those things. So hopefully that makes sense. I went on a bit of a ramble there. But PED's exactly the same. Food's gone up. Training is absolutely flying. I'm loving it. And, these are going to be one of the topics I'm touching on. I am going to be going home in around like a week, like 7, 8, 9 days back home for Christmas, which I'm excited for. If you guys don't know, I'm Polish, so we actually celebrate Christmas on the 24th of December, which is a weird thing as well, and I'll dive into that. But we celebrate on the 24th. We eat dinner all together. It's a Polish dinner, which is just comprised of fish mainly. That's pretty much all it is. No meats, and that's just for religious reasons. Even though my family isn't like crazy pardon me, religious, we still follow the Polish tradition. That's a bit of a tongue twister. And we open up presents on the 24th after we eat our food. That's kind of how it works. And my family and I, as we've all kind of grown up, well, now my sister's got her children, her twins, and my nephews. As they grow up, we'll kind of be changing things about. But we kind of do it as like a secret Santa. It's not so secret because everyone knows who they get. It is randomly picked. But we get one specific person that we buy a big gift for, because we started noticing that, we were buying everyone gifts, and they were really small, like rubbishy gifts that most of the time you just throw away. And we're like, right, well, let's just pick one person, increase the budget for that one specific person, and buy them what they want. And we thoroughly enjoy that. So my mum already knows that I've got her. We spoke about it. She told me what she wants. I've just bought her some Chanel perfume that she hasn't had in years. And I was like, I'll get it for you, mum. Just tell me which one it is. So I got her one of those. That will be coming soon. I'm sure I'll get her something else as well. But it does work really well, actually, when you're in a relationship, believe it or not, even though I'm not in one right now, so maybe it doesn't work so well. But like last Christmas, for example, you can celebrate the 24th with my family, with me, and then on the 25th or on the 24th, you drive over to their family and celebrate Christmas with them, which works out really well because there's no arguing. Like, whose Christmas do we spend out? There's no rushing about. And that was the first year I actually experienced an English Christmas, which was really, really nice. Like, it's good having a change. I can't lie to you. It's good having some meat on Christmas, because normally the 25th is just a normal day for me. There's no differences. We don't have any Boxing Day or anything like that. My family's now celebrated it. And with my future family, whoever that is, I definitely want to do like a traditional English Christmas so my kids can experience it, chat about it with their friends and be like excited for it. Because when I was younger, I liked it because sometimes, I'm getting presents early, but then it would always feel pretty rubbish on the 25th when everyone was opening up gifts, and I would already open them and I had like nothing to do that day and I was always bored and I was like, everyone's having such a good time. But hey, it is what it is. I'm not complaining. My family always created amazing Christmases, and they were very, very fun, and I thoroughly enjoyed them. So shout out to my family. That's pretty much it. Going back for Christmas. New Year's, I'm going to the Cheltenham horse races on New Year's Day. That'll be fun with a couple of my friends, and I've never done something like that before. I'm not going to be going out clubbing. That's what I used to do every year. Last year I didn't because I was on prep, but I usually just go out clubbing on New Year's Eve, like especially in uni. Not doing that anymore. I just really, really, really do not enjoy drinking. I think I was trying to lie to myself a little bit and be like, Mikey, you're still relatively young. You're like 24. You should be going out drinking a little bit. But then I realized, hey, it's just not me. I'm lying to myself. I don't enjoy it. Like, I can still spend time with my friends and enjoy time with them without drinking. And that's the way it's going to be. I can't see myself drinking. I think the only places I really do enjoy drinking, like the atmosphere of it, is if I'm going out on a date. Like, I enjoy getting some cocktails, as fruity as that sounds, and that's pretty much the only time, if I'm honest with you. I don't enjoy the pub, don't enjoy having a pint or things like that, or just sitting at home having a beer or cider. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but it's just not me, if I'm honest with you. But let's get straight into the first topic, which is why dieting down first and then reversing properly will change your life. And this is probably what the main title of this actual podcast is going to be. And it's something that a lot of people do not take into consideration. Now, what I mean by this is most of the time, Let's give you an example. Someone is relatively overweight and, their body composition or their body fat percentage is high, right? They've never really dieted down, or they haven't dieted down in a long time. And a lot of people's preconceived ideas is that once they diet down and they get to low calories, they have to stay on those low calories forever, right? You're going to be suffering for the rest of your life. All those people who have six packs, all those people that are skinny, whatever you want to say, they're eating so little, they're so hungry. But then you might see on Instagram sometimes, right, there's someone with a six pack with a lot of muscle, and they're eating a lot of food, right? They've got a lot of freedom. They're balancing things a lot better. And that is simply because of what I'm going to mention now, right? What I say to clients who start off is we're going to say that they are a relatively higher body fat percentage. We say, right, we're going to diet you down. We're going to get you pretty lean, probably the leanest you've ever been, right? Without trying to psychologically damage them, of course, without doing it at all is my main focus, of course. But there is going to be a level of being uncomfortable for sure. But we get them into a very, very lean body fat percentage, okay? And it's gonna be uncomfortable. It's gonna be hard for you, right? And just to sum it up very quickly, after that, we will reverse you out of the diet, and I'll explain what that means and the benefits of it, and then go into an improvement phase. And then your food will be probably at a higher point it's ever been, okay? And you'll be able to stay on that and maintain such a good physique, right? And this is something that is not spoken about a lot, because if you're not into the fitness industry, or if you don't understand these sort of mechanisms of the body, you'll just assume that you need to stay on low calories. And what do you do after that? You can just go back to old habits and do exactly what you were doing before. No, you're just going to gain all that fat back really quickly. Now, first off, the importance of actually dieting down and getting lean. The reason that's so important is because your body is a very, very sensitive vessel, okay? So the leaner you are, right, the more sensitive your body is, the more insulin sensitivity you have. And insulin is something that essentially helps your body utilize food, or more specifically like carbohydrates, into certain aspects of your body, right? And just to not go into the sciencey part of it, because some of you, I don't want to make it way too complicated. The leaner you are, okay, that insulin, that sensitivity when you're eating the food, that food and those carbohydrates, whatever it is, those macronutrients get utilized a lot more efficiently towards muscle growth, okay? And they get put towards recovery, your training sessions, to building new tissue. But there is also a caveat to that, which I'll go over. What I'll say now essentially is, whilst making sure you're in a smart calorie surplus, okay? so that you're not overshooting it, because essentially no matter if you are lean or not, okay, if you do overshoot your calorie surplus, there will be excess energy in your body which will be stored as body fat. Okay, that's what body fat is, stored excess energy in the form of adipose tissue. Now essentially, when you are higher body fat percentage before the actual diet itself, the less sensitive your body is, okay? The less insulin sensitive you are. Now, what happens with the food that you utilize, okay? The food that you're putting in your body, especially if you're trying to bulk up when you're already a high body fat percentage, that's why oftentimes you've got to control the body fat level you get to, is that sort of food you're putting in, your body's like, well, we don't need any more, right? We've got a lot of excess energy in the form of fat. That's what we're utilizing at the moment. We don't really need more of it. Our glycogen stores are full. We're not making the most out of it. Hey, I'm just going to store this as fat, right? That's essentially what your body's thinking. So it's very unproductive, and you're just shoving food in for the sake of the scale weight going up, but predominantly and most of it is going to be through body fat percentage. Now, I think there's always a time and a place to get your body fat percentage a bit higher, but there's always the law of diminishing returns, right? When it gets past a certain point, everyone's got different set body fat positions that they're more comfortable in, right? Someone might be most productive at 10%, someone might be most productive at 15%, and that's in terms of muscle growth. But essentially, the reason, where was I? I bloody lost track of where I was. Your food will not be utilized in the way that it should be. It's going to be stored as body fat, and you're just wasting time. You're going to make your future diet so much harder than it needs to be. You're essentially going to be in the position where you're just gaining more fat. Your diet is going to be so much longer. It's going to probably be so much harder as well. And it's like, right, well, what was the point of that? Because at this point, I've been dieting for 30 weeks. All of that muscle I've gained anyway, I've probably lost, right? So when you get nice and lean, right, you diet down and you truly, right, it is important to realize you are going to be uncomfortable in those states as well. Sorry, I'm getting a little bit thirsty. And what I mean by that is you probably would have never put your calories so low. You probably would have never done as much cardio, probably never would have done as much steps, probably never would have trained as hard. It's uncomfortable, right? How can you expect change? How can you expect yourself to change as an individual if you are not willing to go through something that's uncomfortable and something that's not what you were doing before, right? How can you expect to be a new version of yourself if you want to be the same version? It's never going to work like that, right? You've got to be willing to accept that there will be levels of being uncomfortable. There will be levels of adjusting to things you've never done before. And ultimately, that was what will build a new version of yourself and lead to a position that you've never been in before, right? So the dieting phase is always hard, the first one, but there are so many things that you can implement to make it easier, right? Diet breaks being a fantastic thing that I love to utilize when I know someone's got a lot of body fat to lose. I put in a diet break at the point where, things are starting to get a bit psychologically and physically hard, where it's like, right, let's go back up to maintenance for a little bit. Let's hold it there. Let's give you a week off of maybe steps and cardio, right? Let's let yourself reset. And essentially that will help metabolic adaptation as well, which is essentially when you're dieting down, right? Your body does not know you're eating less food to get leaner. It just thinks it's in starvation mode, okay? It has no distinguishment. It doesn't know how your brain works or the thoughts that you've got behind it. It just thinks you're in starvation mode. And essentially what your body will do as a sort of defensive measure is it will naturally reduce or lower your metabolism, your sort of maintenance level, right? So it might start at 3,000 calories where you're eating 2,900 calories and you're losing a little bit of weight per week, right? Or per 2 weeks, whatever it is. But then your body's like, oh, we're in a deficit. We're starving. Let me kind of reduce the amount of efficiency my body has, right? In terms of, let's not give him as much energy to move about and show emphasis when he's speaking, or not do as much jittering, right? Shaking your legs, like all these things burn calories. And there's a plethora of other things and mechanisms throughout your body that do sort of work in terms of increasing your maintenance calories, but your body will start to reduce that. So your sort of metabolic adaptation, it will start to lower, right? Your maintenance starts to lower. So when 2,900 calories was the deficit before, well, now it's at maintenance or maybe even a slight surplus. That is why you cannot lower your calories and stay on that throughout the whole diet, because the metabolic adaptation occurs. You need to keep lowering it to stay under it, to stay in a consistent calorie deficit. And then diet breaks, things like high days, things like refeeds, right? They're one used for sort of psychological relievers to allow people to mentally push on with the diet and carry it going on. But then also it helps kind of like, right, oh, my body, I'm getting a bit more food, right? Your metabolism, boosts itself back up a little bit, right? Now, where 2,700 was starting to become maintenance, you've had a slight little bit of a boost up, so you can rinse and repeat a little bit more where you were before and then carry on lowering it and do it again, right? And maybe say every 8 weeks, right, you do it, but it all depends on the client, because someone might feel absolutely fine for the first 16 weeks of a diet, right? Because they've got excess body fat, that is energy. They don't need as much food, right? But when you start getting deeper into the diet, those things are super, super beneficial. And essentially, right, the dieting phase, you're going through it, you're implementing all these tricks to make it easier for you, you get lean, okay? And that is a fantastic starting point. One, you look the best you've ever felt. You've probably become the most efficient you've ever been with work, with your life, your routine, your structure. You build those things along the journey, and that's the cool thing about it. Like with my preps, where, you know, I'm extreme dieting to very, very low body fat percentage, I learned so many things about, you know, what truly makes me happy in life, or things I don't need, things I do need. You know, what makes me feel good. I know if I sleep 8 hours every day and I don't stay up late, I feel a hell of a lot better. I know if I'm not having an off-plan meal, or if I'm eating Domino's twice a week, for some reason my belly feels a lot better, I look a lot better, and I've got a lot more energy throughout the day, right? You start to learn things like that, things about yourself that maybe have nothing to do with fitness as well, just because of how challenging it is. And oftentimes challenges lead to knowledge. They lead to you learning new things about yourself or the journey you're embarking on. And that's a very cool aspect of it as well. And oftentimes what I say to people as well is 99.9% of people are not willing to do it, because it is hard. It is uncomfortable. You put yourself in a position where you're like, Jesus, this is something I'm struggling with. I'm not going to do it. I want to go back to when I was feeling uncomfortable, or comfortable, to the thing that made me feel good, to the thing that I'm used to, even though you might know it is worse for you. It's more comfortable because I've been doing it for a long time. Right? That's what your body's telling you. That's what 99% of people are doing. And you've got to say to yourself, are you willing to be a part of that 1% of people, to be different than those 99% of people, to be different than your previous self, and commit to it? Really say you're going to do it. You're going to challenge yourself, because then you're just going to stay the same. And if you keep saying to yourself every year, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to finally change myself, I'm going to go to the gym, I actually want to see abs for the first time, there is no perfect time to start. And if you keep using the same excuses or keep giving up, how can you expect changes? You simply cannot. So you've got to tell yourself, I'm going to commit this time, and I promise you it's worth it. And now the reason it is worth it is because of the next sort of segments I'm going to move on to, right? And this is the reverse diet. Now, I don't incorporate a reverse for everyone. Not everyone needs them, okay? And there's different forms of, you know, for example, a recovery diet, right? When someone's on prep, if they go down to true stage conditioning, I believe personally a reverse diet is completely stupid, okay? And you should be utilizing something like a recovery diet, which, you know, I've covered in previous videos. I'm not going to dive deep into that, but it's essentially the difference between a reverse is pretty much you slowly increment your calories back up from where they were at the end of the diet, letting your metabolism kind of reset itself. Whereas a recovery diet, when you are incredibly lean, your primary focus is to get yourself back up to a healthy body fat percentage where you feel good, not too high, to bring back your hormones to equilibrium, to bring yourself feeling good, your sleep, your food focus, etc., and then start building up from there, right? You don't want to stay in the diet at the end of the prep. That's a mistake I made, unfortunately, this time round, but that's maybe something I'll touch on. But reverse diet is essentially where you've got to think about it. Cavemen, right? Let's use this as an example. They would maybe only eat 1 time per week, right? They'd go on these big hunts, and I just need a sip of water again. And essentially, a caveman would be pretty much in starvation mode all week, okay? Because it's not getting food. And this is what a diet's doing to you. Your body still feels like it's in that starvation mode, right? And but basically, I'm losing my train of thought here. So when they would hunt, okay, when they would find the thing that they are going to eat, maybe a deer or whatever it was, right? Your body's initial instinct would be, one, eat as much of it as you can to the point where you feel sick, right? And what it's going to do, because it's been in that starvation mode through evolution, it's evolved that every single bit of food that it's eating there that's over what it normally eats or what it's used to, is going to store as excess body fat. right? It's going to store it, because what is excess body fat? It's excess energy. It's energy in the form of fat that your body can utilize, right? Because when you burn off fat, you are burning energy, okay? The calorie deficit is a decrease in energy. Food gives you energy, right? So it's all linking there, hopefully. And essentially, it will store all of that food on that caveman body as fat, right? Obviously, some of it will be utilized then and there. But if there's a crazy calorie surplus, which it would have been, it's stored as body fat, because the body knows, right, well, I might not have food again for another week. So I need an excess supply of food on my body in the form of energy, so I can survive, so I can live. And then it would kind of rinse and repeat that, right? And because no one cared about being shredded as a caveman, right? Your body does not know that. And it's the same thing. When you're going out of a diet, you're in starvation mode. Your body does not know that you're going out of a diet, right? It does not know that it's going to be eating more food. So you've got to essentially slowly, incrementally increase your food to the point where your metabolism was back up to where it was, okay? Because your metabolism, remember, that metabolic adaptation would have occurred where it's a lot lower, right? Your maintenance level is a lot of a lower calorie. And this is where, one, you want to keep a lean physique going into an improvement phase because of all that insulin sensitivity and that sensitive body I was speaking about. But then you want to slowly build up your food, let's say 150, 250 calories per week, or based off of scale weight, whether it's holding, whether it's going down, whether it's going up. I'm not going to deep dive into that, but you want to build it up slowly so your body can readjust itself, get out of that thought process of, holy shit, I'm in starvation mode. Let me kind of store everything on as fat. Slowly build it up so it gets out of that mindset so that you can utilize food a bit better. But then also you're at the point where you've built your food back up to a high maintenance, back to where you started the diet off at, say 3,000 calories or whatever it was. You're like, cool, right? I feel a lot better. My glycogen stores are a lot fuller. So the sort of carbohydrates in your muscles, when they got that pop, a lot more veiny, right? You're in a much better position. But then also leading into a reverse, you end up looking a hell of a lot better. So sometimes you end up losing weight on more calories. And the reason that occurs as well is because you've got to think about it. You're giving your body more energy, right? So first off, you're going to start moving a lot more when you speak. You're going to have a lot more emphasis in your steps. You're going to be doing a couple more things maybe you wouldn't do. Maybe you'd have a bit more energy to go out bowling on Saturday, whereas before you felt a bit too tired, so you're not, right? And your sleep's going to get better because you feel good, right? Your training's going to get better because you've got more energy throughout the gym, right? So oftentimes, in a reverse, you just look way better leading into it. For the first initial sort of 3-4 weeks, you can actually get leaner. You can look bigger, okay? And also because you're eating more food, predominantly in the form of carbohydrates, hopefully, fills up your glycogen stores more, like I said as well. So, you know, your pumps are better. You've got more intracellular fullness, or intramuscular fullness, I should say. Presses up against your skin more. That sort of barrier between your skin and your muscle gets tighter, so you look leaner, you look better. And that's the thing that people utilize on peak week, right? When bodybuilders go on peak week, it's about creating that fullness. But yeah, so you reverse out of the diet, you're getting more food, you're starting to feel better, you're slowly building it up. You have not increased your calories right back up into a surplus. Say if you know before, I was bulking on 3,500 calories, finish my diet off at 1,700 or whatever it might be. I'm going to go back up to 3,500 calories. No, don't, okay? Especially if you're like a lifestyle client. And when I say lifestyle, I just mean you don't compete as a bodybuilder, or you're not in a prep. Don't do that, because you're just going to store in so much body fat. But then also it does depend on how lean you got, right? And how long you've been dieting for. Those are other things to take into consideration. But I'm just using it as kind of like a general way to go about things that will kind of apply to most people. So hopefully this makes sense as well. But now let's say you've passed the reverse phase. You've successfully reversed. And the reverse is harder than the diet. I want you to know that, because you don't have that immediate goal of that fat loss right in mind, okay? You're like, well, my fat loss phase is finished. Mikey said it's done. I'm supposed to be eating more food, and it's a lot easier to slip up on the diet. It's a lot easier to say to yourself, you know, oh, maybe I can have that extra bagel. Maybe I can go up for that off-plan meal. That's where most people muck up, because they don't take the reverse seriously. They don't let their body get out of a starvation mode, right? They don't let it happen. And that's why most people will be in cycles of bulking and dieting consistently and all the time, really minimizing their muscle gain, because they can't be in a bulk too much for too long because they're too fat, simple as, right? And then they give up. And the reverse is a lot harder mentally, because oftentimes when you get more food, you feel hungry as well before you start sort of getting out of that starvation mode. And it's just not a good place to be in. But that's, once again, do you want to be in that 1% or that 99%? If you get through the reverse and you successfully do it, man, will it pay off, right? Now, transitioning into the improvement phase, right? You've finished the reverse, okay? You've got out of that hungry sort of lethargic state that you've been in during the diet, which sometimes might not happen. Sometimes it does, especially when it's your first diet. It most likely will, okay? Especially if you get into a good position where you are very lean. Coming out of the reverse, pretty much should be the exact same body composition, if not leaner, right? Now your body's in a primed spot, super sensitive to gain some muscle, okay? Now you're entering the improvement phase. You can start actually trying to put on weight, right? Rough rule of thumb, 0.2 to 0.4 kilograms per week, okay? I'd even say 0.15 to 0.4 kilograms per week. The more experienced you are, the more muscle you have, the lower you want to keep that range, right? Say if you're brand new to the gym, it's okay to gain a little bit more body weight per week or per month, right? Because you're going to have those newbie gains, or if you've taken a massive break off of the gym, whatever. But if you're very advanced, or you're advanced, you've been going to the gym for a long time, you've got a considerable amount of muscle, try to keep that rate of gain lower, okay? And then you can start driving that up. And because you are so sensitive, because your body is responding to things so well, your training is going to be flying. Your food is going to build up so much quicker than you think, simply because of the fact it is optimizing the amount of food that you're eating so well. You're putting on muscle at a much quicker rate than you would be normally. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not stupidly fast, but you'll notice, and oftentimes with every single one of my clients, for the first initial weeks, like, food is going up every single week and body weight isn't changing because of how much of a good position they've put themselves in. They trusted the reverse. They actually got themselves lean in the dieting phase and suffered a little bit, okay? It's important to realize it's okay to suffer. This is what most people aren't willing to do nowadays, and why people aren't happy with the way they look. They're just not willing to suffer. And food just climbs, it's climbing, and you're like, oh my God, I have still got my six pack right now. Like, I still look lean, I've still got veins, but I'm eating way more than I was before. Let me give you an example, right? One of my clients, Ed's from New Zealand, he's finished off his diet at around 2,200 calories. It was around a 16-week diet, reversed him for 4 weeks, okay? And he's around 6 weeks into his improvement phase now, if I believe. Finished off on 2,200 calories, right? He's on 4,000 calories right now, and only like 0.5 to 1 kilograms up in the exact same condition. And he's like, oh my God, I cannot believe the amount of food I'm eating, and I look like this. I've never done it before, right? And, you know, there's so many scientific details I could go into why that happens, but it's just the way it happens. And that's where most people make the mistake. They're not willing to go through the initial suffering of the diet, the initial suffering of the reverse, and getting through that, getting lean and sticking to the reverse. And then the improvement phase, because they're sensitive, because they're lean, okay, it can last so much longer, right? Instead of being 12 weeks, 3-month bulk because you get too fat, it can be 6 months, it can be 7 months, it can be 8 months. And guess what? You're not going to look shit by the end of it. Yeah, your body fat might be a little bit higher than it was before. We're not going to let you get to the point where you look fat, right? That's the last thing you want. And then, oh my God, right? If I want to get lean for a holiday now, if I've got a holiday in 8 weeks' time, because I'm already in a relatively good spot, I haven't let myself get fat because I stayed sensitive. I increased my food I increase your food for my clients, for example, at a rate where we needed it for muscle growth, not just for the scale weight to go up, based off of visuals, based off of training performance, based off of recovery metrics. Now, I only need to diet down for 8 weeks rather than that initial 24-week diet I might have had. And my food's so high, it's barely going to, it's going to go down, but it's never going to be as low as it was before. Steps, I'm nowhere near doing as many steps. I'm not doing cardio this time around, because you stuck to the process, because you stayed through that suffering, you pushed through, and you put yourself in that 1% of people. Now, look, you're eating more food, right? You're in that position where you've got a 6-pack. You're not still eating 1,800 calories to maintain that 6-pack. You've done something that most people cannot do, right? And it makes dieting in the future so much easier. If you want to get ready for a holiday, if you want to prep, if you want to carry on an improvement phase, whatever, if you want to have a tidy up, a resensitization phase to rebuild your appetite, you only need like 4, 6, 8 weeks. Now, obviously there are different cases, right? Every single person is different, but this is just a rough general rule of thumb, which I've found with myself, which I've found with clients as well. It works, right? But you've got to be willing to put in the work. And also, one thing I've got to say, coaching is not a magic pill, all right? What I mean by that, if you sign up with the coach, don't expect everything I said. If you sign up with me, don't expect everything I said to happen, because it only happens if you put in the work. I can give you the most perfect plan, training plan, nutrition plan, activity plan. If you don't follow it, if you don't put in the work and you're slipping up twice, 3 times a week, it's never going to happen, right? Be willing to suffer, okay? And another thing, I'll touch on that, right? When you go through those initial stages of the reverse, the initial couple weeks of the improvement phase, your food would have built up hell of a lot, right? Let's say now you're on 4,000 calories like Ed's. How much easier is it going to be to fit in an off-plan meal, right? Say if you are on 2,500 calories and you wanted a Domino's as your off-plan meal, and the Domino's pizzas alone, 2,500 calories, well, that's the only thing you're eating that day, right? Whereas if you go through that initial suffering, you go through those stages, guess what? Now that Domino's, right, 2,500 calories, oh my God, I've still got 1,500 calories I can play with throughout the day. So I can still eat that Domino's and enjoy myself, right? And, that's not to say you can't go over your calories in an off-plan meal day, but it just makes it, if you really want to be on track, if you really want to be locked in, keep that consistent data. Like the way that I manage my off-plan meals is I stay within my calorie limits for the day, right? And then I have, say, 1,500, maybe even 2,000 calories in an off-plan meal, whatever I want. And I'll stay within that calories. But the higher my food goes, the easier it is to manage, because I've still got a lot more food throughout the day. My final meal of the day might be an off-plan meal, what I fancy, right? Not many people take this into consideration. So hopefully that makes sense. But the next thing is, this leads perfectly why the off season is so important. This is where you build that crazy amount of muscle. This is where you improve yourself. This is where you become a better version of yourself and truly build that muscle that you've never built before, because you can be in an off season for way longer. You can improve your training, your form, your execution, everything like that. It just gets better. And you actually will probably enjoy the process a lot more as well. But there are struggles throughout the off season as well, not just in a diet. And what I mean by that is, I'm going to pause and go to the toilet a moment because I'm bursting. Okay, I am back. Apologies for that, guys. And I've got a monster as well. Hell yeah. What is this one? Strawberry Dreams, unrated, unrated. You know exactly what I mean. What's the word? What is what I'm... Overrated, underrated flavor. There we are. Why did that take me so long to think of? And I've decided as well, I'm going to go to the gym, even though today's a Sunday. I'm going to go in and do a little bit of arms and cardio and abs. I just feel like it. This podcast episode motivated me a lot. But what were we on in terms of struggles throughout the off season? Okay. And there's a couple struggles I've definitely dealt with throughout the off season. First and foremost is the acceptance of getting a bit of a higher body fat percentage. Now, it doesn't mean you need to get fat, like I mentioned before. What I do mean is essentially not being stupidly lean, okay? Because when you're stupidly lean, you're simply not in a good position to gain muscle, right? You don't have as much energy in the gym. And at the end of the day, weight moves weight, okay? The more sort of padding you've got around your joints, around your muscles as well, body fat wise, right? And I came out of prep this year in June the 29th is when I finished. And I was way too focused and way too paranoid about putting on weight. I stayed way too lean for way too long. I think I was only up like 2.5, 3 kilos in 3-4 months post show, which is not a lot. And in return, I lost quite a bit of muscle. 100%. And this is where, I knew I needed to get a coach, Tim. Obviously, I was with a coach before, but I ended things with Finn simply because, one, I knew I was going to go enhance, but secondly, because I had a hair transplant surgery, all right? And it was like, I've got to take a month off anyway. I'm kind of going to take things under my own hand, and that was pretty much it. But anyway, it was kind of the acceptance of knowing, right, body fat is going to go up and you can diet in the future. It's not an issue, right? One, it's winter time. It's okay to get a little bit of a higher body fat percentage, but then also it's in the off season, what's hardest for most people is about not having an immediate goal, okay? Whether you were dieting down for a holiday, whether you were dieting for a prep, bodybuilding show, a photo shoot, just to get lean, right? You've got a specific goal, right? In terms of it's a lot more immediate. It's a lot more short-term dieting is. It's a lot shorter than bulking. And that's because losing fat is a lot quicker than gaining muscle, all right? And you don't have that immediate goal. I thought I wasn't going to compete ever again. Clearly, my mind's changed now, right? I'm going to be competing 2027, and my ultimate goal is to go for an IFBB Pro card and step on the Olympia stage one day. Who knows if it's possible, but that's just my vision, right? That's what I want to do. Don't know if it's going to happen, but I do believe in myself as well, right? But in the off season, because it is such a more long-term goal, a lot of people lose sight of that goal very easily, and they stop caring about the things they used to care a lot about, right? Their sleep, their nutrient timing, their steps, their cardio, right? All these things that they never would have not missed in the diet, those non-negotiables, they start letting slip because doesn't matter too much, doesn't matter as much as it did in the diet because I'm supposed to be gaining weight anyway. That's why most people make the mistakes in the off season, right? That's where most people don't see the progress they want to do because they treat an off season as like a 8-month break off of the gym, off of being serious, right? And that isn't meaning or doesn't mean you have to treat yourself like you're a bodybuilder and prep. You can still have off-plan meals. You can still enjoy time with your family, right? But you just will feel better doing all of it because you're a higher body fat percentage first and foremost. But then also, if you want to have a significant difference the next time you diet down or the next time you compete, the next time you have a photo shoot, the next time you go on a holiday, or you want to make it easier for yourself, take the off season seriously. And how I overcame this is just honestly keeping those goals at the forefront of my mind, not letting myself, and honestly, I know this sounds dumb, is I do not want to be a part of that 99% group I've spoke to you guys about, those people that, you know, don't care, the people that stay the same every single year, the people that don't make progress. I don't want to be that person. Every single year, I want to be a much better individual than the previous year. I want to come into it learning a lot about myself, being in a bit better position, both sort of business-wise and bodybuilding-wise. I don't want to settle. I constantly want to improve. I constantly want to learn. And it was quite as simple as keeping those goals at the forefront of my mind and knowing if I don't put in the work for my own goals, who the hell is going to do it? No one's going to take control of my body and do it for me, right? We're not a part of the Severance TV show where we go into the gym, or when we're supposed to be doing all this stuff, our brain switches to an alternate version of ourselves, which does it for us, and we forget about it. We're like, oh, well, I did it anyway. No, it obviously doesn't work like that. If you do not put in the work, who's going to do it for you? And you cannot expect great things to happen. You cannot expect yourself to get to certain positions if you don't put in the work. It's quite literally as simple as that, right? You can't complain and be like, why am I not looking like this person? Why am I not achieving this? Why am I not got a six pack? If you use those excuses that everyone else does, if you treat it like everyone else, if you don't put in effort, you do not deserve it. Simple as. And I'm sorry if that sounds harsh, but it's something that I wish someone just said to me straight away when I needed to hear it, at times where I did struggle with my adherence, at times where, you know, I was like, it's okay to be a bit more slack. Well, no, because I've got certain goals that do not allow me to do that. Now, certain people can get away with certain things. Absolutely. Don't get me wrong. But this is where you've got to keep it relative to your goals, okay? And just know it's not easy. It's not. But the more you do it, right? Just like a job. When you started your job, I'm sure you were like, holy shit, what am I doing? This is the hardest thing ever. I'm never going to learn. 6 months down the line, you do it like it's the back of your hand, right? Or like a hobby, something that you enjoy, so you don't even think about it anymore. Same thing as this, right? The more you do it, the more times you prep, the more times you diet, the more times you bulk, the easier it gets every single time. It's never going to be easy right off the get-go, all right? Now, that leads on to the next thing I wanted to speak about is what would I do differently if I started my journey again? First things first, taking the bulk seriously, 100%. When I diet down, reverse properly, go into a bulk properly, okay? And the reason I say that is because when I was sort of 18 through to 22, 21, I made the mistake every single time where I would diet down to getting pretty lean, and then I'd be like, right, well, I'm going straight into a bulk now. I want to eat a hell of a lot more food. And guess what would happen? I would gain a hell of a lot of fat, diet down again in 3 months' time, not have a proper off season whatsoever, gain no muscle, look exactly the same the next year, every single year. Maybe you gain a little bit of muscle, of course, but what it would also do to me is hurt me mentally, psychologically so much, because I would hate the way I look. I'd hate the way I feel because I was eating shitty, rubbish food. My skin was horrible. You know, I was just tired all the time and I just felt rubbish. I thought that immediate dopamine hit of eating a lot more food would make me feel better, not taking into consideration what my future self is going to think like, or feel like, I should say. And I always felt rubbish for it. And now, obviously, the last couple of times I've taken it super, super seriously. Guess what? I feel so good. I feel amazing eating good foods. I feel amazing not drinking. I feel amazing having a routine. Some of you might see it as boring, but it's what I love and I feel great for it. Like I 100% do. And, I don't care that I'm 24 and I don't drink. I really don't, right? I love having off-plan meals where I just make bigger versions of what I normally eat, or maybe have like a massive bowl of pasta, get some cookies on the side. Like I'd much rather do that than have like a greasy KFC where I feel rubbish the next day. Those are simply the only things I would change about my journey. I enjoy the gym. I enjoyed the gym throughout my whole lifting journey, right? I think as well as that, the last sort of 2 years, let's say all of 2025 and 2024, I think I should have been a lot more expressive about my enjoyment in the gym, where I was maybe too scared to mention to my coach that, hey, I'm not enjoying this. Like I'm not having so much fun. Can we switch these exercises? Or I know I get along a lot better with this. I get a lot more of a mind muscle connection with this. Can we switch it to this? I wish I was a lot more expressive rather than forcing myself and sort of suffering in the background of certain things I didn't like, especially with food as well. Communication's allowed in coaching. Tell your coach how you feel, because they should always put your enjoyment at the forefront of things. I'm this exact same with my clients, where like, be open with me, be communicative. Remember, this is a partnership. It's not a dictatorship. Tell me how you feel. I want you to enjoy this. Okay. And that's what I did a lot more. That's what I wish I did a lot more. But then, at the start of my journey, yeah, I went out drinking. Yeah, I had off-plan meals here and there. I wouldn't change any of that. I made awesome memories, for sure. I trained how I wanted to at the beginning. I just made sure my form was good. I got stronger. I wouldn't really change any of that. It would just be simply more of what I'm speaking about here, to make more progress and realize, it would have made me feel a lot better. I wouldn't have to go through those tough times mentally where I would only wear jumpers and lock myself away in my room because my face was so chubby, or I didn't want to take my top off and look at my pumps because my belly was flubby. That's the thing I would change, because I'd feel a lot better mentally for it. Now, another thing that I'll touch on, I'm not sure if I actually had a question on this, is peptides. What are my thoughts on peptides, and do I utilize them with myself and with my clients? I think peptides are definitely a great thing. But I think what I will say about that is, if you're not treating the underlying issues, right? Or if you're not nailing every other aspect that you shouldn't be utilizing peptides. You should only utilize them as like on top of a thing, right? Is it more useful? Are some more useful than things like creatine? Yeah, I think they do have a bigger effect than creatine, right? But let's use retatrutide as an example, because that's a very, very, the most popular peptide at the moment, for sure. And things like tirzepatide and Ozempic, right? All these different things. Semaglutide, I should say. But essentially, let's say someone comes to me and they want to try retatrutide because they're really struggling to lose their weight, right? And I think retatrutide is an absolutely fantastic peptide, and I utilize it with a few of my clients. But essentially, if someone's trying to lose weight, but their sleep's awful, their diet's all over the place, they're not training properly, their cardio isn't on, they're not doing any cardio, they're not hitting their step counts. No, I'm not utilizing retatrutide with you. We need to hit those basics first. See it, oh my God, these actually do work. There's ways I can sort of curb my appetite without utilizing a peptide, right? Not knowing how it's going to affect me. But let's say all of those boxes are ticked and you want to give it a try and the client's okay with it. I'm never really going to recommend it to someone unless I really feel like they would benefit from it and they don't know about it. But oftentimes the clients ask me to utilize it and I'm like, right, if I think you're in a good position, then we definitely can. But yeah, at that point, it's okay. But start with the smallest amount, go up where need be, take control, bloods, etc. Be smart, right? Minimize the side effects. And I think they all can be utilized in a fantastic spot. I don't know too much about many of them. Like the one that I'm very clued up on is retatrutide. I know a few things about things like SLU, PP, I think it's 3357. I can't remember the actual numbers of it. 557, something along that. SLU, right? SLU, L-carnitine, even though that's an amino acid technically, but you can use injectable forms, and a lot of people view that as a peptide. MOTSI, like the mitochondria enhancers. Those I know a little bit about. GHKCU, melanotan 2. Things like that I know, but all the other ones not really. And obviously growth hormone, the best peptide there is, 100%, I believe, at least. Growth and retatrutide, at least. I know that, obviously. But all the other small, minute ones, I don't think I'd implement them for myself. I'd definitely be keen on using Reta growth as well in the future. But yeah, that's pretty much that. I just wanted to touch on that little topic there because I get a lot of questions on it in my DMs quite often. And next thing before I go into the questions, I don't want this being too long because it's already getting up there. It's kind of my future goals and sort of PED side of things as well. So you guys know what I'm on. I've openly spoke about it. Nothing's changed. It's just testosterone. I'm not going to go into that specific doses because I've mentioned that in previous videos. But just a little side note, I do not promote or endorse the use of assistance, enhancements, anabolics, okay? Stay natural, all right? That literally, that I'm just going to be right up front. My goals just dictate the use, okay? And I'm okay with it. And I've come to accept the side effects and the consequences that can come alongside of it, all right? And I'm taking the safest and the healthiest approach I can towards it. It's not safe and it's not healthy, but you can take this healthiest and safest approach, all right? But future goals, 2027, probably late 2027, compete. Win a PCA overall and maybe win like a two bros overall as well. If we think that I can go for an IFBB Pro card in 2027, go for an IFBB Pro card in 2027. That's the goal right then and there. Qualify, and if not, take some time off, grow, compete again, get an IFBB Pro card. Then it will be the case of cool, build some tissue, solidify my physique, solidify the category that I want to compete in, and go for the Olympia, step on the Olympia stage. Once I reach the Olympia stage and I've got an Olympia worthy physique and an IFBB Pro worthy physique, probably call it there, unless there's a glimpse that I could be a Mr. Olympia. But let's be realistic here, all right? That's kind of the goals moving forward. And in terms of performance enhancing drugs, I have discussions with this surrounding my coach. I'm essentially at the point where, we're very reserved with it at the moment. I think we're making fantastic progress on what we're doing now. Am I open to utilizing other ththings? 100% I am, whether that's DHT derivatives, whether that's growth hormone, maybe even insulin, I don't know. I'm 100% open to using them. And whenever my coach suggests it, I'll use them and I'll let you guys know. Simple as, all right? And then what I'll do next podcast as well is I want to maybe get someone on and do like a podcast on goals going into 2026 in terms of like business, life, things that I've actually set as specific things that I want to achieve in 2026, throughout the bulk as well, throughout my bodybuilding, business, life, all that stuff that I mentioned. But anyway, that will be next podcast and we'll finish this off. Hopefully you've enjoyed this episode as well, because I know it's a massive yap there. But I just wanted to give a little bit of like an idea of why this is so important, why it makes a massive difference, that sort of dieting, the reverse, the bulk, right? Hopefully that's helped some of you and it give you a bit of an insight of to why these things are so important. But let's get straight into the questions. Haven't had too many, which is fine. If you have any questions to go into the next podcast, leave them in the comment box below. And I will make sure to answer them next podcast. But first question from Xavier. What compounds do you think you might stack with tests down the track? So kind of leading on to exactly what I was saying there. Definitely growth hormone whenever Tim thinks it's necessary. Maybe, I don't know, like a DHT derivatives, those ranging from like Primo, Mast, EQ. I don't know what it is. I will let Tim decide. And obviously, I'm sure we'll have a conversation of what I'm comfortable with based off of the side effects as well. Maybe insulin. I don't know if we're going to utilize that. I really don't know. That will be a conversation I have with Tim yet again. What else? Maybe some other peptides, who knows? I think I'm definitely going to experiment with retatrutide during my mini cut. Not because I need it, but I want to give you guys a full breakdown of just how it goes. Maybe things like MOTS-c, SLU, who knows, right? I don't really think I need to. And, obviously in prep, there'll be other compounds, whether they're orals leading later into the prep or whatever the case is. But for now, that's all that I can really picture that being the case. I don't know about things like tren and stuff, if I'm honest with you. But am I open to trying it in the future? In all honesty, yes, I am. And that will all be down to Tim and I. Xavier, again, if you were to make one ingredient calorie-free, what would it be? That is a very, very good question. If I can make one ingredient calorie-free, flour. It'll be flour, because you can make a lot from that, right? Pasta, pizzas, cakes, etc. Flour, 100%. It's got to be flour. I think that's the best choice there is. But out of the diet that I actually eat right now, it would probably be rice, because I eat a lot of rice, and it just means I can have lots of rice. Or maybe something like a fat sauce, like butter. That would be pretty cool. But flour's my answer there, mate. Gons Julian, how much fiber should bodybuilders get in their diet? I think everyone's got different tolerances to fiber. I think a rough rule of thumb, 30 to 40 grams of fiber per day. Try to keep it spread out throughout your day. And based off of your bowel movements, based off of your digestion, based off of what makes you feel good. But that's kind of my rule of thumb there. Oh, I'm going to hiccup. I know it. But, excuse me, that's disgusting. AGM coaching, best approach for coaching a lifestyle client with 50 plus pounds to lose, timeframes, refeeds, etc. So honestly, man, I can't give you timeframes, refeeds, because they come to when you're working with the client, right? You need to see those specific things within that client, because one client might need a refeed or a diet break or a high day 12 weeks in. One might not need one until 20 weeks. That's where you've got to base it off of the recovery metrics they're giving you, off of the data you accumulate through your time working with them, based off of visual changes. You've got to take all of those into perspective and then implement those things. Don't just throw them in because you hear people using them. You've got to have a reason to use them, and you've got to know it's actually going to have a beneficial approach to that client. But in terms of time frame, set up a much longer time frame than you need, right? It's better to be sort of overshoot it rather than undershoot it, so clients get their hopes up, right? You don't want them to get their hopes up, because it might be like, oh, tell them in 20 weeks they're going to lose 50 pounds, where they might not, right? And they don't, well, it's been 20 weeks, why are we not ending the diet yet? I was prepared to lose it in 20 weeks. No, set it to be a bloody year if it needs to be, right? If someone were to lose 50 pounds, how much is that in kilos? Just so I can check here. 50 pounds in kg. Yeah, roughly 22. I would have thought it's around 20 kilos. So 22 kilograms. I would say if you want to be smart, I would say anywhere from 20 to 30 weeks is probably a good one there. More if needed, if you know they are really new to it, if there's events going on around it, if they like to have off-plan meals 1 time a week, which is fine, extend it, right? Make it longer than it needs to be. And I'm sure they'd feel a lot better, right? If you set it out to be 35 weeks long, and they finish in 25 weeks and you're like, yeah, you're done. And they're like, wow, okay. So hopefully that makes sense, mate. Ed likes lifting, the person I had on my previous podcast episode. Love you, Ed, mate. Hope you're doing good. When you were young, what did you dream of being when you grow up? That's changed a lot throughout my time. I think my number one goal ever since I was young, or my number one dream, I should say, was a YouTuber. 100%. I was filming YouTube videos from like 9 years old with one of my best friends, Luke, in his back garden. I'd film like Cinnamon Challenge. I'd start filming Minecraft when I was like 11 years old. I've got some YouTube videos privated on here. Maybe I'll show you guys one day. But yeah, I've got a YouTube channel. Maybe I can actually pull it up here. Let's see if I can pull it up. Let me get this. YouTube. Oops. I'll share this for you guys. There we are. I found it. How can I share my screen? Share screen. We'll do this one here. Right. Can you see this? Look at this. Is my channel. Have a look at that. 12 years ago. So how old was I in this one? 12 years old. Cinnamon Challenge.
And try swallow it. I've got.
If you want to watch this, go over to Mr. Jam Mikey. Make sure to subscribe.
Feel sick.
Absolutely fantastic there. Mr. Jam Mikey, bloody brilliant. Minecraft, Call of Duty Black Ops 2. Like, look at this trick shot. Oh, insane. So good. Man, like, what's this?
Hey guys, it's Mr. Jam Mikey here, and this is a Supercraft Bros episode.
Brilliant. Right, I'm not going to bore you with that, but if you want to go watch them, absolutely go watch them. That was my dream, to become a YouTuber. And then as I grew older, I wanted to be a doctor, a surgeon, a brain surgeon. That was a goal going into uni. Then it switched to dentistry, and then I went into medical sales, and bodybuilding became my dream job. But yeah, as a grown up, or bodybuilding coaching, I should say. I am quite literally living my dream life, and I have my dream job right now. So, younger Mikey would be really proud. I would not change anything about this whatsoever. But yeah, as growing up, definitely YouTuber. Or actually, no, that's a lie. That is a lie. My first dream job before YouTube was an actor. I always wanted to be an actor. I actually went and auditioned in London for Nickelodeon, and I got through the auditions, which was pretty cool. We had to film in front of a camera, do a script, and it was to be on a Nickelodeon show, believe it or not. And there was, what's his name, Justin from Wizards of the Waverly Place. He was there, and essentially it was a case of you had to move to London. Acting classes were 2,000 a week, something along the lines of that. So it was probably a bit of a scam as well anyway. But it was with Nickelodeon, and my parents, I think, were willing to do it with me. But then also we had to just have that deep chat where it's we're going to have to move away, etc., etc. But yeah, that was my dream job. Actor, then YouTuber. Tyler, ways to stop binge eating. Oh, that's a very loaded question, mate. I've got a video on it, so have a little watch of my videos, mate. But I think a couple points I'll just throw out very, very quickly is, first off, remember what you feel like after the binge. Remember the next day, how you feel, how sluggish you feel, that sort of drainment, that I regret this, it's the worst feeling ever. Remember that when you get those binge feelings, and know that you do not want to feel that way again. Secondly, keep things away in your house that set off binges, whether that's peanut butter, whether that's squares bars, chocolate. Do not have it in your house, right? Stay far away from it. But then thirdly, the thing that I think changes it for everyone is when you do binge, do not punish yourself. Do not restrict yourself the next day. Do not do more cardio. Do not increase your cardio. Okay, what you need to do is accept that it's happened, learn that it's happened, and then go back to normal, back to your regular structured plan. Okay, have that routine there in place. Do not change anything. Learn from those mistakes in terms of what caused it, what did I do, etc., etc., what emotion set this off, what environment set this off, and then just go back to normal. Okay, because otherwise, if you starve yourself, you do more cardio, do more steps, it's going to make the urges a million times worse, and you're going to go into next week probably doing it again, okay? But, that's a very quick answer on it, mate. I think it's a very deep question, which, I've made a podcast on, I've made a video on. I can touch on it in a bit more detail in the next one, mate. But if you do need more support, DM me on Instagram, my friend, okay? What are your sources of carbs, proteins, and fat at the moment? At the moment, my carbs range from, I actually added bagel thins into my diet. White potato, rice or pasta. I rotate between the two. Oats, cream of rice, fruit. That's pretty much it in terms of carbohydrate sources, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And then in terms of protein, 5% beef mince, chicken, whey protein, egg whites, eggs, and that's it. I'm pretty sure those are my only protein sources. Sometimes Greek yogurt as well, actually. Sometimes I rotate Greek yogurt in there. And fats, 85% dark chocolate, almond butter or peanut butter, depending on what I fancy. Eggs, yet again. 5% beef mince, got a little bit of fat in there. Macadamia nut oil. And that's pretty much the only fat sources I use. Hopefully that answers your question. And that is going to end the podcast. Hopefully you enjoyed podcast episode number 7. Any questions, leave them in the comments below, guys. Hopefully you're enjoying these. Let me know if you want to see anyone on the podcast. I'll make sure to upload one next week, and then I'll have a little bit of a break leading into 2026, and we'll get straight back on it and maybe have a co-host by then. Who knows? But thank you as always for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe if you listen to this on Spotify. If you could rate it 5 stars, that would be awesome. If you're interested in coaching, click the link in the description or head over to my Instagram, and you can inquire completely for free. Get in touch with me. Code Mikey for 25% off at Perform. If you use the link in the description, the specific one with Perform, it does directly support me, so I'd appreciate you going through the link. And yeah, that's pretty much it. All right, don't forget to like, subscribe. Catch you soon. Take it easy. Have a lovely day and continue chasing your dreams, okay? Don't give up. See you later.